Hey guys, it's Goyer Plus, and I'm back to add on more to you today. And it's been a weird season, both in game and for my channel. I've been uploading a decent amount, not a ton, but I still am watching the Falcons and the Bulldogs. I'm still paying attention. I'm still very happy with how the seasons went to this point. Last year I did an end of season review where I went over things like our best players of the season, worst players of the season. Just went through every game. Talk about the draft and our coaching. I'm going to be doing something similar to that today, except it's not the end of the season. It's going to be a mid-season review. I did kind of something like this last year, around 9-10 games through the season, but it wasn't exactly the same. I didn't go in as in depth as I am going to today. So we've got a lot of things to go over. I'm going to start by looking at every game briefly, no more than like 2-3 minutes. And then we're going to go through everything else I want to do. So we started against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, yeah, don't forget to subscribe and stuff, I guess. The Steelers defeated the Falcons 18-0. I mean, it's 18-10. They kicked 6 field goals. The Falcons couldn't put up any points in the second half. As you can see, it was all Steelers. Justin Fields did what he needed to do. Kirk was not good in his debut. Robinson wasn't great either. But we did decently against the run. McLeod was our leading receiver, which isn't a good sign. This really hurt Falcons fans. We thought with a new coach, a brand new receiver core, new quarterback, Judon and Simmons coming in, we thought this was going to be a statement to make against the Steelers, coached by Mike Tomlin and former Falcons coach Arthur Smith. It did not go that way. Mooney, 15 yards. London, 15 yards. Pitt scored, but only 3 targets. I mean, our top 3 got combined 9 targets, while Ray McLeod got 7 on his own. It was a tough game, man. It was a tough game. The best thing that happened is that we got the second most sacks we've gotten all season. It's just something that really makes you think, oh, this season's going to go like every other season. But then something changed. On Monday Night Football, we played the Philadelphia Eagles, the last game of the week. I think. Maybe there were some Monday night games. I don't think there were. I'm not sure. But we got the win, 22-21. The Eagles, despite putting up 11 points in the fourth quarter, which is more than half of their points which they put up in the other 3 quarters. I mean, this was a game that made us think, oh, wait, maybe Kirk is a good QB. 20 of 29, 241, 2 touchdowns. Robinson nearly had 100 yards. Mooney had one of his best games of the season. Hurts threw a game-losing interception. Barkley was good, but you know what happened to Barkley at the end of the game. I mean, if you look here, isn't the Eagle... Wait, where okay, it's right here. It's like right here. 98.1% chance to win. And the Falcons came out on top thanks to a drop pass by Saquon Barkley. Maybe I'd say our second biggest win of the season. Kirk led an insane game-winning drive. London with the game-winning touchdown. Bates with the game-sealing interception. Bates is amazing, of course. The tackle for loss, 2 deflections, and a interception. We had a sack? Oh, yeah, Matthew Judon got a sack. Okay, anyway. Huge win, but the problem was people were thinking this was more of a bad Eagles game than a good Falcons game, and maybe their thoughts were reinforced when we lost to the Chiefs 22-17, because once again, no points. We had 3 points in the second half against the Chiefs, 0 points in the second half against the Steelers. Mahomes did pretty well. He did throw a pick, but Cousins also did as well, 20 for 29 again. Our leading rusher only had 32 rushing yards. Tyler Algier, Carson Steele did great. Rasheed Rice balled out. London did pretty good, but as you can see here in the second half, we never really had a shot to win this game, especially with the pass interference late that was not called. I mean, Bijan had his worst game of his career. 16 carries, only 31 yards, averaging less than 2 yards per carry. I mean, he did score, but that's pretty much all he did. London had a good day. Mooney did as well. Pitts actually had some decent targets. 2 fumbles by Cousins, but we didn't lose any turnovers because of it. Leading tackler was Troy Anderson. And, I mean, couldn't get pressure on Mahomes. He pretty much could do what he wanted. Of course, Sims got an interception, but that was like our only real highlight of the game. Then we're thinking, okay, actually, I didn't really feel that bad about this loss against the Chiefs because I was thinking, well, they're a really good team. I feel like the rest bailed them out a little bit. Let's move on. And then this game happened. And we defeat the Saints by 2 points thanks to a 58-yard game-winning field goal by Young Wei Koo without scoring an offensive touchdown. Cousins, another pick, 21 of 35. It was a decent day for him. Algier less in yards again. London had a pretty decent day. Carr wasn't great either, but Kamara and Olave were. Well, Kamara's yards per carry weren't that good, though. We had a pick six by Troy Anderson and a muffed punt recovered by Cordero Hodge. Those were our points. Robinson only had 7 carries this week. London had 12 targets, only caught half of them. Pitts, no receptions off of 3 targets. Another fumble by Kirk Cousins. I think you're starting to see a trend. Anderson with 17 tackles. A sack by D. Alford was our only on the day. And Troy Anderson had his first pick to the crib. And then we go into week 5, which was the best win of the Falcons season. A 36-30 thriller in overtime by Kirk Cousins and Cordero Hodge. As you can see, he has the best game maybe of his career. 42 of 58, 509 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Bijan started to get more carries again. London had one of his best games of his career. Baker Mayfield tried, but in the end, I mean, you can see once again, Bucs favored for a large portion of this game. Another comfort behind victory. We had 550 total yards. Guess I must count sack yardage. I mean, he took 4 for 32. Bijan, we didn't really run the ball much. All right, we saw a hole in the Bucs defense with the injuries, and we exploited it. 2 receivers going over 100 yards. 3 TDs combined between London and Mooney. Pitts also had 88 yards, caught almost all of his targets. Hodge with the game-winning touchdown, which was one of the best plays in Falcons history, at least regular season history. And no interceptions today. Baker Mayfield was pretty hard to pick off. But we did get 1 sack for David Onyemata. I remember that one. But you see a trend here, struggling with QB hits. Only 1. Oh, yeah, McLeod almost had a really bad fumble. And then Jesse Bates forced a fumble. Of course, we didn't capitalize off of that, but it's okay. And our only win this year has been by more than 1 score. A 38-20 win over the Carolina Panthers. I don't think there's too much to say about this game. I mean, Kirk had another nice day. Dalton threw 2 picks in the second half. Struggled against Hubbard. Algier had maybe one of his best days. London did really great as well. And just a good win against a bad team. It took a little while for us to really get the huge advantage, but we did what we needed to do. Bijan and Algier combined for 200 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. London and Pitts were effective when we needed them to be. Another from by McLeod, of course. No sacks, 3 QB hits. I mean, we know the story by now. Interceptions by both Phillips and Terrell. And next we got the Steelers. I mean, not Steelers, the Seahawks. Man, I don't think there's much to say here either. Just an off game. We won those 3 division games back to back. We got maybe a little bit overconfident, started looking ahead, and the Seahawks caught us by surprise. Geno had a great game. I feel like Walker had his way with us. Metcalf was unguardable. Bijan had a good day. Kirk didn't. I mean, we outscored them in yards, but too many turnovers. A fumble 6, 2 interceptions thrown by Cousins. So bad that Penix even got in on the fun. But as you can see here, Bijan was amazing. Pitts was pretty good, catching 7 of his 9 targets. London also had a touchdown. 1 sack, actually. We got 1 for James Smith-Williams. You're seeing the trend, though, right? I mean, 1 to 0 sacks per game. And that was really when we started realizing, all right, guys, we got to start getting the pass rushing together. Did it start against the Buccaneers? Well, not really, but 31-26 win to sweep the Bucs. And this is maybe the most statistically important win because it gave us a sweep and a 1-game lead in the NFC South. So that was very important. As you can see here, offense was amazing in this first half. Defense did their job in the second half. They only allowed 9 points. Actually, really only 7 because the safety wasn't their fault. We actually were able to pick off Mayfield this week, unlike last week. I mean, last time we played them. Cousins just owns the Bucs. Otten and Pitts both had amazing days. It makes it feel a little scripted with national tight end. They had 4 tight end touchdowns in this game. And then Robinson had a decent enough day. Algier didn't do too much. Pitts was great. Mooney was great. London was all right. Of course, another trend. Cousins fumbling again. And No sacks, no QB hits. And finally, Cowboys Falcons, the most recent game only happened a couple days ago. We got the win again, 27-21, with another pretty decent showing offensively and defensively. A little more balanced games because offense was pretty good, defense was all right. Cousins had another excellent day. Robinson did good. Mooney started to show up again. And I mean, just a good win against a team that's been struggling. We took advantage of that. Bijan had one of his better receiving days. But and then, again, a lot of fumbles for Kirk Cousins. We actually had 3 sacks in this game, which is finally starting to turn up. And that's about it for the game reviews. 6-3. We got a really fair schedule. The Bucs have an easier schedule than us. But we can at least pull out 5 of these games, right? I think you think we can beat the Saints pretty easily, Raiders, Giants, and Panthers, and then just give us 1 or 2 of these final few games. And I mean, that's a winning record. That's a really nice spot to be in. But I'm gonna move over now to the rest of the things we need to go over. See you guys in a minute. Actually, a second, I guess. All right, let's continue the mid-season review like this. So we just went over the game review, going over every game, how I felt, the stats, and now we'll go over some more stats with team statistics. It's just pretty short, but I want to mention it. So the Falcons are 4th in passing yards and 16th in rushing yards. What I think is interesting here is that though the passing yards the rushing yards doesn't look that good, we're 16th in rushing while still being in top 5 in passing. It's hard to do that. A lot of the teams that are great passing teams aren't as good at running. For example, either they're not great this year. The Dallas Cowboys, they struggle to run, but they're a pretty decent passing team despite the turnovers. But the Falcons are still a top half of the league in rushing yards while still being top 5 in passing yards. So that's just leads to a pretty elite offense if you look at it. And then another one, we're 8th in points. Last year, almost every loss that wasn't because of a game-losing drive was because our offense wasn't putting enough points up on the board. We beat the Bucs for putting up 16 points. We lost to the Panthers because we put up 7 points. We beat the Jets for putting up 10 points. The Falcons are top 10 in points this year. Can you believe it? And that's while also having 2 games where putting up 10 and 14 points against the Steelers and the Seahawks respectively. So in most cases we're not losing, we're putting up a lot of points. In all 3 of our losses, we put up less than 20 points, but in all of our wins, we've put up over 20 points. And we have more wins than losses, which results in a pretty good statistic in points. Defensively, we're last in sacks. Are you surprised? Even with the 3-sack game, we're still far behind the number 31 team in the league in sacks. That's why we want to trade for an edge rusher at the trade deadline. I don't know if we're going to do it, but that's what I'm hoping. We've only got like 3 hours left after recording of this video. The Saints just traded Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders, which makes that game look even better. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're 12th in INTs. Now, I didn't know this, but listen, Simmons has 2 interceptions. Bates has 2 interceptions. Terrell has 2 interceptions. No, my bad. Let me rephrase that. Bates has 2 interceptions. Terrell has 2 interceptions. And then 1 interception for Anderson, Simmons, and Phillips leads us to being number 12 in the league interception, which isn't too bad, especially when you're also 6th in forced fumbles, 3 by Jesse Bates. We're a pretty good team at taking the ball away, especially since we're not great at long drives from the opponents. It's good that we're taking the ball away, giving our offense the opportunity to put up more points. And finally, we're 2nd in tackles, and that's a weird stat as well. For a cornerback, you don't want a lot of tackles. It means you're getting beat a lot. You're having to make the tackle instead of breaking the pass up. But for a whole team, that means we're not allowing a lot of big plays. Even if teams are scoring, they're taking a long time. They're exhausting their offense. And if it's in the 4th quarter, it gives us a higher chance to keep the lead because they're taking so long to score that by that time we can just run out the clock with Bijan and Algier, which is kind of what happened in the Cowboys game, where even though they scored to make it a 1-score game, it was too late. Being 2nd in tackles also means we're not missing a lot of tackles. We're bringing teams down after 4 or 5 yard passes, which makes their 3rd downs tougher, and it's easier to get stops and easier to give our offense the ball back. that's it for the team statistics I wanted to highlight. So we'll move on to the playoff picture. More instead of like the national playoff picture, which is kind of hard to look at right now, I'm going to look at the division. In last place, the Panthers. I mean, my bad. It's not the Panthers. I know it sounds like it'd probably be the Panthers, but it's actually the Saints, who are 2-7 and 1-3 in the division. They blew out two bad teams in the first two games, the Panthers and the Cowboys, and everybody thought they were the best team in the NFC South. And since then, they have lost 7 in a row, including their second game against the Panthers, and it's just not looking good for the Saints. For them to make the playoffs, they have to win out, and then even still, the Falcons, Bucks, will both have to have terrible second half of their season. Not looking good for the Bucks. Third for the NFC South is the Panthers, and they are 2-7, 1-2 in the division. Still not looking too good, but I mean they beat the Saints, so that's not crucial. It's just a win, all right, man. We know the Panthers aren't good. They just traded Jonathan Mingo away. Both them and the Saints are sellers right now. They've given up on the season, which means the Falcons and Bucks playing them have a pretty good chance of getting divisional wins. Don't be surprised if the Falcons go 6-0 and the Bucks go 4-2 in the division. Next, at number 2 is the Bucks at 4-5, also 1-2 in the division, despite losing to both not both the Falcons and someone else. Both times they've lost to the Falcons. That's their only divisional losses. They beat the Panthers. Yep, they beat the Panthers because the Saints' losses are to the Falcons and to the Panthers. No, it's still the Saints. They beat the Saints. I'm tripping. They beat the Saints. So the Saints' losses are to each of the three teams. One's to the Bucks, one's to the Panthers, one's to the Falcons. Panthers' losses are once to the Falcons and once to the Saints. And the Bucks' losses are both times to the Falcons. Falcons have no divisional losses. They sit at number 1 at 6-3, 4-0 in the division. Now, the Bucks need to win 3 more games than the Falcons in these final 8 to take the division lead. Now, the Bucks have a very easy schedule. I only see like 3-4 maximum losses. That's how easy their schedule is. If they play terrible, I think they will still only lose 3-4 games. So the Falcons need to at least be deep. But this is a bad thing for the Bucks, because they're tied since their tiebreaker is in the Falcons' favor, even though they're not that far behind, they're only 2 games, they actually need to win 3 more games than the Falcons because of the tiebreaker. So the Falcons, let's say the Bucks win 6 of these games, they need the Falcons to go 3-5 in these next 8 games against a pretty easy schedule. I mean, that's a really bad position for the Bucks and a really good position for the Falcons. It's another thing for Falcons fans to smile at because they sweep the Bucks and they've got a really good chance of making the playoffs. But let's move on to something a little bit more negative. The top 3 worst players on the Falcons this year. Now, this isn't statistical. This is just me watching and saying, well, these guys have been struggling either compared to last year or just they're being put in a position that they're not used to. All right, let's go over it. Number 3, this is the least bad out of these 3 players, Nate Landman. And it sucks because I love Landman. I love all 3 of our linebackers. Landman's been struggling a lot. I feel like he's not been able to catch up the players, even the tight ends. Like, they'll make the catching run right by him. He's trying to strip the ball a lot, which is leading to a lot more missed tackles than you would expect from Landman. It's just been a struggle season for Nate Landman, and Caden Ellis is showing out, which makes it even harder for him to make a name for himself this year. I don't think Landman's been terrible, but I think he needs to step his game up if he doesn't want his position to be snatched by returning Troy Anderson. Number 2. This is my personal least favorite Falcon this year. Ryan Newzu. I believe that's his name. The replacement center for Drew Dahlman has been absolutely atrocious this year. Look at inside runs. Look who tackles Bijan and Algier. It's almost always either a linebacker or who Newzu was blocking. Every time. Newzu has been by far our worst offensive lineman. Bergeron's improved. Matthews had an excellent season. Lindstrom's had an excellent season. McGarry's been really good in run blocking, but Newzu's been so bad it makes our offensive line look way worse than it actually has been this year. It's been annoying to watch, alright? It's been annoying to watch, and the penalties aren't helping either. And number 1, I'm going to give it to Lorenzo Carter. I mean, it sucks because the Georgia player, he got a blocked kick in the Georgia-Oklahoma game to give the Georgia national championship chance. And this year's been bad. I mean, he has like zeros in every stat, even pressures and things like that. It's just been a sad season for Lorenzo Carter. But let's go on a more positive note now and list the top 5 most exciting Falcons to watch this year. Now, of course, I could go out here and say Jesse Bates #1 and stuff like that, and it'd be a boring video, or Grady Jarrett. But I wanted to look at the Falcons, who have either been surprising or heavily improved from last year, or weren't even on the team last year and have came in and helped us a lot. Starting with #5, Caden Ellis, a former Saint. He's been amazing this year. He was good last year, but especially the game against the Cowboys, he had 5 pressures, pass deflections, a bunch of tackles for losses, and a sack against Dak Prescott. He did really everything you could want a linebacker to do last week. And all year, he's been our best linebacker. I'm saying over Troy Anderson just because he's been hurt. Ellis has been consistent, healthy, and great for the Falcons. Well, this isn't really in a particular order, though. #4, Darnell Mooney. Leads the team in receiving yards, second in touchdowns. The only thing you can take away from him is the big dropped pass he had against the Bucks, which probably would have won us the game a lot earlier than overtime. It was just, it sucked. But really, overall, Mooney's been an amazing player for the Falcons. An amazing route runner outside the numbers. A great run after the catch guy. He's really done everything the Falcons could want. Great catching, big plays. He's been a great route runner. He's been a great tackle avoider, kind of like a Bijan Robinson. Not exactly the same. His spin move's way more nastier than his juke move. But Mooney's been amazing. Really happy that we got him from the Bears. #3, AJ Terrell. Now, he's been a our starting corner for a long time now. But since that one great 2020 year, Terrell has struggled to go against really anybody who's over at 80 overall in Madden. Let's be honest. But this year, he's been amazing. I think he's been way more locked down. Even against DK Metcalf, Terrell wasn't bad. Terrell has been struggling a lot less against the top receivers. I feel like he's trailing a lot more than he usually is. Like, even if he does get beat, he's usually right behind the guy to make a tackle. He's been a great tackler, just like he has been in his entire career. And he's finally picking off the quarterback. Interception against Baker Mayfield and Dalton, both division rivals. Amazing year for Terrell so far. Let's hope he continues it. #2 is Kyle Pitts. And he's been good every year. Even his torn ACL year, he had 400 yards or so at that point. Last year he had 660, I think. This year he already has around 400, I think, with 3 touchdowns, which is tied for his most in his career. I mean, Kyle Pitts is finally getting the recognition he deserves. During 2 quarters he's played really well for, or like amazingly for. His Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan. He's been struggling a little bit with Mariota and Ritter, obviously. But it's great to see him finally in that rookie season form. And #1, I'm going to give it to Kirk Cousins. I mean, do we even have to say it? Despite him struggling a little bit at times, he's gotten us like 2 different game-winning drives against the Bucks and the Eagles. He's been very, very good when he has time to throw. He goes through his progressions like no QB I've seen this year. Kirk Cousins has deserved the $180 million that he had to start the year. That's it for players. Now let's move on to coaches. Zach Robinson is our offensive coordinator, and honestly, he was a little bit weird starting out. I mean, just weird, man. Like, some of the plays were odd, but later in the season, he's gotten better and better at calling plays. He puts Mooney and McLeod in motion a lot, confusing defenses. He stacks London and Pitts by each other, making it pretty much pick your poison. I feel like he's been way better at choosing if Robinson should get a carry or Algier should get a carry. I feel like everything Robinson has done has led to Kirk Cousins being successful, to Bijan being successful, to our receiver core being successful, to even Algier having 5 yards per carry. Like, Zach Robinson has done his job. Almost every win we've had has been an offensive win. I mean, Zach Robinson, I have to give you your credit because you've been amazing this year. Now, let's go to the least popular coach of us so far, Jimmy Lake. Jimmy Lake's gotten a lot of hate because the Falcons' defense was so good last year under, I think, Nielsen. And this year, they've really struggled under Jimmy Lake. Struggled to get pressure. Struggled to just keep your receiver under wraps. We've been allowing a lot of yards to things like people like tight ends and short routes. But I think in that last game, we did really well against tackling as soon as they got to the ball. We got 3 sacks. I think Lake is hearing the complaints and he's fixing his game. Don't count Jimmy Lake out yet. And finally, our head coach, Raheem Morris, has been amazing. I mean, the play calling, the 4th down aggressiveness, the culture he's built on the Falcons, everything's been perfect. I give pretty much an A+ grade this year. Of course, we struggled against the Steelers all around, but I think we've really cleaned up since the first 3 weeks, and we've been 5-1 since then. And my final thoughts: the Falcons are 6-3 with over an 80% chance, I believe, to make the playoffs. We are undefeated in the division, sweeping the Bucks, and we are looking to sweep the Saints this coming Sunday. We have a pretty decent remaining schedule. We should at least be able to win 5 of those games, as I said earlier. We came out of the harder half of our schedule with 6 wins and only 3 losses. We've been 7-10 for 3 years in a row, and now we have 6 wins halfway through the season. It's something special that they're building in Atlanta. I'm telling you, primetime Kirk is finally becoming a good thing. We're taking advantage of mistakes and turnovers. We're scoring when we need to score. The defense has been pretty clutch this year. Everything's been great. Of course, nothing's been perfect. Falcons are not perfect. Pass rush is struggling. Kirk has an interception problem, which he didn't have last year. I think he's cleaning that up, though. No interceptions in the last 2 games. I think this is going to be a good football team. I don't know Super Bowl. You're going to have to show me something more for a Super Bowl. But I think we have a good foundation to build on for the coming seasons and even this season. Rise up. See you guys later. Adios.